Hi, welcome back to the studio for another lesson. This one is entitled, Do you want to be more consistent? And I think the answer that every golfer would give to that is yes, please. And after many years of coaching, what people actually mean by that is that they'd love to have a more consistent quality of strike. If a golfer hits the ball really sweetly, but it tends to go offline 10 or 15 yards, but it feels great off the club, in our experience, the golfers forgive themselves that, and it's still an enjoyable experience. It's the poor strikes which really get to us in this game. They can mean that your scoring is impossible, it's not very enjoyable, it can even be embarrassing on occasions if you do too many of them, and in winter it can really hurt your hands as well. So there's lots of things which come about by striking the ball well. You learn to control your distances better because you're getting a consistent distance out of each club, and your confidence levels rise when you know that you're going to strike the ball well. So today's video I'm going to concentrate on consistency of strike, tell you what the main reason is why people do not have that consistency, and then give you a few things to work on at the end of the video to hopefully you can take to the practice ground, work on for yourselves and see the benefits in your game. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to hit a couple of shots here now. I'm going to hit one which, fingers crossed, is a really good shot, and then I'm going to hit one that's less well struck. And then we're going to drill down into the main difference between the two, and then give you some ideas about how you can improve your quality of strike. So I've got an 8-iron here. That's got 32 degrees of loft on it when it left the manufacturer. That'll become important later on. Let me just try and hit a decent shot for you. Okay, that would have to go down as a good one. Okay, and we'll come to the data in a minute on the two shots. Let's hit one now with the same club, same golf swing, much less well struck, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, similar looking shot, very different sound. I don't know if that came out on the video here, but let's have a look at those two shots and really get to the bottom of why one was struck and felt a lot better than the other, also went a lot further compared to the second one. So let's have a quick look at the data for those two shots. Here they are, shot one, shot two. Don't want to go into this in too much detail, but you can see that they were incredibly similar swings, not far off the same club head speed, roughly the same path and club face, give or take a degree and a half or so. So very, very similar golf swings from me. The biggest difference I want you to look at is in this column here. This is what we're going to be focusing on, the angle of attack. Was the club on the way up or the way down when it approached the golf ball? So the first shot, the well-struck one, the angle of attack was 6.3 degrees on the way down, and the second shot, the club was 1.4 degrees on the way up. Even though it was a serviceable shot, I very slightly caught that ball on the way up. And the effects of that are huge, because if I now go back to show you what the balls actually did, the flight of the balls, the first one went 154 yards carry, and the second shot went 134 yards carry. And even though it was a reasonable shot, and the differences become quite clear quite quickly, because the launch angle of my better strike was at 19.3 and the launch angle of the less good strike was at 26. Why was that? Because once we lose our angle of attack, we actually present more loft to the golf ball at impact. So with the same golf club, which, as you recall, I told you was 36 degrees of loft, with a good strike and a downward angle of attack, I have presented 27.3 degrees of loft to the ball. Hence my shaft was leaning forwards at impact. And with the second shot, I've basically applied the exact loft that I bought, 36 degrees, give or take, to the golf ball, because I've hit it on the way up, or a much shallower impact. And this is what has the effect on the ball flight. We can also see that there's another difference here, because when I hit the shot poorly, this is the less good shot, the strike of the ball comes off the bottom rung of the golf club. I'll show you that in more detail in a second. And when we hit the better shot, there's very good reasons for this, the strike comes right out the middle of the club and a little bit higher up the club, as you can see here. So I'll just jump in front of the camera and show you those things in a touch more detail so you can understand them. So we've had a look at the data. It's quite compelling that angle of attack here is the biggest difference between the two shots, and that in turn changes how much loft we present to the ball and which part of the club we have access to be able to hit. Let me just show you in a little bit more detail here. So here's the golf ball sitting on the fairway. Here's my golf club. If I hit the ball on the way down into the golf ball here, as you can see, the strike point of the ball on the club, I'm hoping you can see that there, I'll just show you in a bit more detail, hit it on the way down, the strike point of the ball on the club is in the middle of the club. It's up about 3 or 4 grooves from the bottom. If I strike the ball on the way up or dead straight, so no downward pressure on the ball at all, by definition, the only part of the golf club that the ball can actually touch first is this bottom groove or 2 of the golf club. So they're never going to feel great, those shots. They're going to be the ones that jangle in your hands in winter. And of course, the effect on the loft is quite clear to see too. Downward angle of attack with the shaft leaning forward, there's less loft presented on my 8-iron. If I actually present get the angle of attack shallow, then all the loft is presented and the shaft is more vertical, and therefore the ball's going to go higher, not as penetrating, not as far. So it becomes clear that angle of attack is really important if we want to get consistency of strike. So now let's have a look at a few ideas that you can practice to improve your angle of attack through impact. Okay, so what can we do? So let's have a think about this. When we want to hit the golf ball, we know that we want to hit it on the way down now. And with an 8-iron, somewhere between 4 and 7 or 8 degrees down is about the perfect angle of attack. How are we going to create that? Well, one of the most common factors that we see in golf is that when people start playing the game, that they actually try and assist the golf ball in the air. Totally rational. This is how everyone starts the game, because it doesn't make any sense to hit the ball on the way down when you're first beginning the game. It makes sense to try and get the ball in the air. And some of this is left in a lot of golfers for many years to come. So we need to combat that. So a couple of things for you. When you swing the golf club, your middle point, your centre of gravity here, with an iron, because the ball is fairly central in the stance, should be right over the top of the golf ball here. And we need that to be the case at the point of impact, because this circle that we're making with our golf swing will still be on the way down if my centre of gravity is level or ahead of the golf ball. If my centre of gravity is allowed to move back behind the ball and it doesn't come back forward, clearly this club is going to go past its lowest point and it's going to be on the rise when it hits the ball, and you'll notice the shaft is now more vertical, there's more loft showing, and I cannot find the middle of that golf club. The only way I can find the middle, the centre of that golf club, is by getting my weight forward and hitting the ball on the way down here. Shaft's now leaning forward, I'm presenting less loft. In real terms, what you'll see is that you will take a divot, and the divot will start after the ball, because you're going to hit the ball on the way down. The club will continue to descend slightly after impact, take your divot after the shot, and then you'll know you've had a chance of having a good strike. If you're someone who doesn't take divots or takes it cleanly off the top, you haven't got enough downward pressure with your irons. And yes, you're going to hit some good shots, very possible, but they're not going to be your best shots, and it's going to be less consistent for you. So that's the explanation of how downward striking happens. Over my years of experience of coaching, the best way I've had success with people improving their consistency of strike is merely a feeling, and that feeling I'm going to give you is one of trying to hit the golf ball lower than you've ever hit it with that club. Often it feels a bit like a punch shot. If you had an 8-iron here and had to keep it under some trees, for example, some limbs of some trees ahead of you, instinctively you would move your weight forward and you'd keep some loft off the golf club to hit it low. And that's exactly what we want to promote to get your downward striking better. It's much better doing something like that, which is easy to see and feel, rather than working on some technical part of the golf swing like maintaining wrist hinge and all that sort of thing, which is very difficult to do at 85 miles an hour. So next time you go to the range, I'd like you to practice hitting the ball lower than you've ever hit it with that same golf club from the same ball position. And what will happen is you'll gradually get into a habit of taking loft off the club. And that by definition will lean the shaft forward and give you a downward angle of attack into the golf ball and hopefully give you some of that magic consistency that you're after. So I hope that's helped. If you need any extra help on that, come and see us in the studio here. It's something we can have very quick levels of success with, and it will help your whole golf game, especially short game wedges and things. If you're prone to thinning or duffing wedges, your angle of attack is clearly not right, and it will go right through your game and give you that confidence that you need.